We're all headbanging to our own stuff.
It's a damn good song, and we only hear it once every 6 months. So I mean,
that's
Or less.
ambitious. Yeah, I was
Or
like saying
less.
that's ambitious, man.
Yeah, every 6 months is a bit generous.
welcome to Vagabond Nerds. This is our year-end review, and of course we're a week late, but screw it, why not?
That's my fault.
I would actually
Not
argue
entirely.
maybe we're the ones who are right. We waited till the full end of the year. We are into 2024.
True enough.
That's a good point.
I think
True enough.
You know what?
I think
Good point.
everybody else is jumping the gun, similar to the way they want to put Christmas decorations out at Halloween. We are actually waiting until the year has finished, and now we're going to go back and talk about it.
That's what we love about you. You're always thinking. See, I
will
love
not
that. It's that
disagree.
perspective.
You're always thinking.
I will
Yeah.
not disagree one bit. Gentlemen, did we have a good? I don't want to talk about having a good year. 2023 was for us, I think, was a bit. Well, for me anyway. I wasn't a huge fan. I could always be worse type thing. I certainly ended it epically.
Yeah.
As
Yes, you did.
well as I could, limping literally into the new year.
Mhm.
But what are you gonna do?
What was it the Simon Pegg movie where his big thing was I think it was Simon Pegg. It was one of the movies he did where his whole thing was doing this marathon, and he's like the last person to cross.
But he still finished though.
But he finished. Which is the point, is that he finished. Yeah, that was the whole point. Speaking of limping across the line, I would be remiss if I did not point out that we are brought to you by Jeremy over at Titan Comics, our favorite comic monger. So go spend some money.
Jeremy.
He's got all of your all the best geeky accoutrement. Actually, once I get a few more bills paid off, I'm gonna have to go drop a couple dimes on him because there's some things I need.
You're gonna have to drop some Dead Presidents for sure.
Yeah. Well, I need some artist editions, and so I'm gonna have to, and a couple hard to find things. So I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna be shelling. I'm gonna be shelling when I get a few bills paid off.
I will tell you. I mean, we're gonna review 2023, but 2024. there is personal one thing I'm looking forward to that we've been working on since last year and haven't said a thing about except to probably Sean. And it's finally done. It's finally finished. Actually, it was sent over late last night. Yeah, late last night.
Nice.
So the pitches begin. But it was cool to finally see that all in its glory, if you will. So hopefully it makes and gets published to where I'll be happy about that. But
it'll be published.
It'll be
one
published.
Way or the other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The question is, will it go? Will it be published?
Will it go to an actual publisher, a comic publisher? We'll see.
Right.
But the other thing that kind of made me chuckle is apparently I'm not the only one in 2024 that was looking ready to go because Cat Williams.
Right. So tell me what happened because I don't know anything about this.
First off, you either love or hate Cat Williams' comedy, right? Just because it is to a certain point. I love it. It's very thought provoking. His comedy, it's certainly not just going to sit there and be slapstick by any stretch of the imagination. But I
haven't seen any of his stand-ups, his later stand-ups in the recent years. I do remember the first 3 or 4-ish, and I loved all those. They were funny as hell. So, but comics change a little bit as they go on in their career. So, ebb and flow as to whether or not I find it funny at the time. But so. I don't know.
So he was on, I think it's Shannon Sharp's podcast, Shay Shay. I think is the name of the podcast. Okay. And decided to go on a tear about everything, right? And he started pretty much with, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, the Kings of Comedy tour. You're talking Cedric, you're talking Steve Harvey, you're talking Bernie Mac, who was the only person, by the way, that he did not say a thing against. But he just started airing.
Him and Mark Curry, like
him and Mark Curry,
and
right. In fact, Mark Curry, he went out of his way to talk about what a great comedian he's been and how much Steve Harvey stole from him and just started trashing Steve Harvey. He started Kevin Hart.
He went hard on Kevin Hart.
This whole thing. Okay.
Ludacris is in the Illuminati. He was
what?
He went off. Like, if you get a chance, go. It's about, I think, 45, 50 minutes. Go listen to it. But he never comes across as being bitter or angry or like most of the rant stuff. Like, he didn't come off crazy. He came off saying, if you're thinking that this is what it is, and my favorite thing is, I think everyone has pretty much heard the Steve Harvey bit, or not bit, but the story of him being homeless right up until he got his first real gig, to which Cat Williams calls 100% BS on. He was like, that man was never homeless. That man was making money hand over fist, hitting all the comedy stores, making about $3,000 a night every time he was performing. And he was performing 7 nights a week, whatever. So he was like, he was not. I never saw him homeless. I saw him dressed like he, in true Cat Williams fashion, just went and told aired out all the dirty laundry. That who was it that I think was it Cedric who had stole one of his top jokes? He was like, you can even do the videotaping of it. He goes, the literal translation was, the only thing that he didn't keep from my joke was that he made it from a car to a spaceship. Yes, that was the only difference. But you've got people just coming out left and right now. Of course, some of the people he called out, with the exception of, I think, Steve Harvey, I don't think he's addressed anything on it.
If I'm Steve Harvey, I don't see.
Yeah, if I'm Steve Harvey, right. But yeah, he accused him of stealing jokes from Mark Curry.
Not just jokes, the whole bit.
Yeah,
he flat out said that he just took all of Mark Curry's stuff and took it. And because I was thinking, it's like, I remember Mark Curry, and I was like, where did he go? Like, he just sort of disappeared from what I saw, and it's like, I always liked him, so it was interesting. Again, you take it for what it is. It is an entertaining interview. I'll say that.
And comedians have historically been stealing each other's bits for years and years.
Carlos Mencia.
Yeah,
but now that I was actually going to say, Carlos Mencia is from what I understand a bit of a like extreme sort of situation, right? Is it Mencia? It was Mencia, right?
Yeah, it was Mencia. Yeah,
stealing the young comedian's jokes, and Joe Rogan. I mean, we all remember when he went after him on stage. But let's be honest, he never recovered from that. Not really.
No, he didn't. Well, but that's the thing, is because he was taking those jokes and using them. There's borrowing and stealing, and jokes that are getting blended into one another from different comedians, especially when they all run in the same circles together. Because most comedians, I said not most, comedians have their own cliques, right? Just like anybody else does. Just like musicians, they get into these friends, they get relationships and form friendships with other comedians in the business. And they think a joke's funny, they borrow it from one another. But the problem is when, like Mencia, you take it too far and you actually start using that material live, or stealing complete entire bits from other comedians to where now they can't perform it because you're the one who's known for it, because you have a bigger audience. Dennis Leary did that with his smoking bit on No Cure for Cancer. He took over. Good grief! What was the guy's name? I forget his name. All of a sudden, he died of prostate cancer, or maybe it was pancreatic cancer. He's on the Tool albums. They have a sample from him on Inema. He's on those albums. He's got a couple of really good specials that were hilarious. But yeah, he took that cancer, the if I ever get throat cancer bit from him, and recorded it and put it in his stand-up before he ever got the chance to do it. And that was like, no one had ever done that before. And those are big no-nos when you start doing shit like that. It's like, come on, man, that's not your stuff. You gotta leave that alone. So telling it funny is, at an improv is one thing, but recording it for a special is completely different.
Well, Bernie Mac, actually, someone pulled up an old a video. Bernie Mac's talking to, basically just saying, "Hey, advice for young comedians is don't ever do your work in front of other comedians." He's like, if you've got, if you've got a club full of comedians, don't use your A material because they will absolutely steal it. He even laughs and says, "I'll steal it just like everybody else." I was like, it's like, at least they, good for owning up. But essentially, Cat Williams puts every damn body on blast except for Bernie and Mark Curry. And there was one other guy he mentioned sort of offhand, but there's Illuminati. There is, people are plants.
That gets me, man. That's insane.
It is, but he just calls everyone and he's like, this guy's a fraud. This guy's a fraud. But to Ray's point, he never comes off as bitter. He's just like, look, I'm out here doing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my thing. But, because at the end of the day, it's like, these people are, in his opinion and what his claim is, that these people are selling. He's like, they're selling their souls for what they have, and there's no point. And he's like, what's the point of that? So again, he never does come off as he doesn't come off as bitter. But I'm like, Cat, you seem to, because that's how we are. We're tight like that. Mr. Williams, you seem, it's like, it's interesting. I'm like, you don't come off as bitter, but at the same time, I don't know if all of it's true. I do know that enough of it's
but it's funny because some of the stuff that he said working with oh my gosh, I just forgot Ice Cube, especially on the Friday after last or Friday after next movie, and Cube came out and said, he's 100% on a lot of the stuff. Is that 100% on just his participation in the movie? Is it 100% on everything that he said? Like, you kind of wonder. And if anyone who's been outspoken against systematic, I don't want to say oppression because I don't think that's the word I'm looking for, but systematic uprising, if you will, it's going to be Cube, right? Like, he's definitely going to be it. So to have him not do that, but then on the flip side, Ludacris put out a quick 2-minute rap, which I got to be honest, for him doing that on the spot, or even if he wrote it down in 2 days, it was pretty good.
That was entertaining.
I was like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, I mean, it is technically, or it was his job. So it's not like it's, a couple of days to put something on paper.
He should know a thing or two, right?
Is that what we're saying? Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think he probably had it down.
Yeah. So it was, Cat definitely kicked off the year. And again, listening to it, watching it, he doesn't come off as bitter. He doesn't come off as being angry or I'm here to tear everyone down. He's answering questions, and then he's, giving the responses that he feels that is, at least to him, that's 100% truth. So it's interesting to see
from his perspective. Like I said, there's definitely some things you're like, okay, he can speak with authority on this, and then there's others where you're like, okay, that feels off, but at the same time, it's like he's got points. Again, the whole Illuminati thing does feel really weird, but at the same time, he makes interesting points, and it's like, well, okay. And again, Ludacris, I don't know anything about that. I don't know but his broader point of things being sort of rigged and set up, and that certain people are pushed to the front. It's like, everything we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. Again, not just about those individuals he's referring to. Again, I don't know, but the idea that people in Hollywood are put there because there's ulterior motives or whatever. You can't say that you can't say he doesn't have at least some grain of truth even if he's not necessarily being truthful. But again, Cat doesn't necessarily come off as someone who's going to be untruthful about those things. So it's an interesting interview. That's all you got. I mean, it's like, it's his side of the story, and it's interesting. It's entertaining as hell, but
for sure.
Yeah, it's worth watching, if nothing else, just to laugh, because there's some parts where I just busted out laughing, because he's always funny. So, at least I've always found him funny.
Yep. It's interesting. I love it. It's worth a listen. Again, how much is true, up to anyone's interpretation. So, but anyway, so that's how you start 2024, apparently, and
Yeah,
it's a high bar to live up to for sure.
Yeah,
we're not.
2024 did not start slow. We got Aliens in Miami. We got Cat Williams putting everyone on blast. There's some other stuff that's. And you're just like, okay, 2024. I guess we're not even going to get a weekend to this before we start with the hijinks.
No. Well, because why?
Yeah, because why not?
at the end of the day, why?
But how about 2023? What are some of the things we thought about 2023? What were the highlights for us personally? And this is not the best of 2023. This is our highlights of 2023.
Well, I think it's our best of 2023. We talked about it. Will we do a top 10, top 5? And I was like, let's do a top 7 because I don't think there's that much to make 10, but I think there's a little bit more to make 5. I don't know if we hit it or not. I did personally. Yeah. But Sean, why don't you start it, man? What were your highlights for 2023? What was your top 7?
Well, okay. So yeah, highlights of 2023 stuff that I thought was really interesting. All the coverage of the orcas destroying yachts. I thought that was really a highlight. Nature fighting back against billionaires. You just don't see that on a day-to-day basis.
That's very
so
true.
That was true. That was a nice high point.
And I love that you can just put that in as orcas destroying, and it automatically comes out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating.
And what I found really interesting about that particular phenomena was how planned they were. They were very orchestrated in their attacks.
Continue to go on, Sean. Please.
Yep. That was okay. Yep. So I also high point. I thought I really enjoyed Mitch McConnell buffering on live TV. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That was another high point for me. I thought that was.
My list does not compare to yours because
hold on. In retrospect, I probably wrote down the wrong list of things that I think are probably. That's not how we're approaching this, is it?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going entertainment.
Entertainment.
Well, I don't know. I thought that was entertaining.
Okay. Listen, Andre 3000's flute album. That's impressive. I mean, that's a pivot.
I'm sorry. I was completely unaware of this. What? He did a flute album?
Andre 3000 put out an album this year, and people were losing their minds because it's all him playing the flute. It's not a rap album.
Hold on. Are you being serious about this?
I'm not joking about this.
I need to look this up because I met him once and he's a really nice guy. So I need to.
When did you meet him?
I met a lot of Andre 3000.
Yeah.
When?
Back when I was working at FedEx office. So Erica Badu and him have a kid.
Yes.
And she was living right down the street and he needed help with some files. He came in, talked to him for a while. He was a really, really nice guy. Yeah. What was funny is I immediately recognized him, but I'm not going to freak out because it's like he's a normal guy. He wants to do normal things. Yeah. And of course, the woman, one of the women, she's like, and finally she talked to him, and he looked up back at me. I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. And he's like, I mentioned I really liked your the cartoon you did. He's like, oh, thanks. But I went back to help because he just had questions about a file. I met the drummer for Drowning Pool doing that. But yeah, I need to hear this now.
Thank God you didn't say the original singer.
No. I mean, I legally can't talk about that story.
Yeah, sure.
But no. Andre 3000 was a really nice guy. I liked we weren't hanging out. We were talking for a while.
You got to talk for a bit while he was there.
Yeah. So I did not know about the flute album. I got to hear about the flute album.
So Jason, look it up, right? It's called New Blue Sun. The Blue Sun album, I think, is what it is. Actually, literally called New Blue Sun. So look that up.
Interesting. Write it down. I didn't even think about that, but Blue Sun could, not that it is, but in geek terms, that is definitely a reference to Firefly and Serenity because Jane wears the Blue Sun T-shirt. So, anyways, all right. No, seriously,
it's on my thing now.
There you go. No, real. So all right, real highlights, things that
highlight.
I don't know. The Andre 3000 thing seemed real.
I took a turn, man. I'm going to count it.
Yeah.
So Sean's got top 8.
Yeah.
All right. So I was very, very happy about the delivery and the execution of because I was being very cautious to be hopeful. But The Last of Us.
Yeah.
That was an amazing delivery from HBO, from the cast and the crew and the writers. And I mean, that is probably, I don't know if it's the best video game adaptation, and not because it's like one for one. I know that I personally have been the person to say source material more than necessary in one program. It's definitely not one for one. They took some liberties with it, but I think, having never played the game, the way they presented it was really, really good. And if you were a fan of the game, you played the game and you were expecting apples for apples, sorry. Sometimes it is nice to have a slight change up, as long as they try to keep those real big core moments there. And from what I understand, they did keep a lot of those core moments in the series. So,
yeah.
Well, and with that being said too, is like, even if you weren't necessarily a fan of the game, right? Or if you were a fan of the game and you just felt like it didn't do it for you, that's fine. But you cannot ignore the acting or the writing that went into the series.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very well done. And by the way,
good call.
Finally, this is my number one thing about that show. It's the only post-apocalyptic show that actually addressed the fact that gasoline degrades.
Gasoline.
Yes.
You brought that up, and I remember you mentioned it. Yes, it was very good.
Yep.
Yeah. No, they give it realism. Some straight up realism, where you really get to think about the impact. I mean, other TV shows have done that, just not to that extent. Not to the extent of going that deep, and I gotta give them props for that. But that was one of the. I mean, and by the guys, this is not in any particular order. I'm not like going from my least favorite to my most favorite. I'm just throwing shit out there. The Mandalorian, the last season, the latest season of the Mandalorian, that was good. I enjoyed it. It was a nice wrap up, in my opinion, to the whole thing. I don't know if it's gonna go further than this. I mean, if they left it where it was, I'd be happy with it. But I think they're probably, given the popularity, gonna keep it going.
Well, what they're
but I loved
what they're saying is that it won't go to a season 4, but rather his story will end in whatever movie they do to wrap all of the Disney stuff up.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, his, oddly enough, 2 Pedro Pascal things there, right? Didn't plan on mentioning the 2 that way, but it just so happened that way. But yeah, the Mandalorian is great. I loved having watched Rebels and slogged through the Clone Wars. Seeing Bo-Katan in this one it meant more. I will say that it meant more. Honorable mention for Ahsoka in that as well, because the Ahsoka series that was this year was really good too. Rosario Dawson is amazing in that. And Ray Stevenson. God rest your soul.
Yeah, he was great in it.
That's the only thing that makes me not want to see a second season, because I don't know how you continue his character. He did such a great job.
Yeah,
and I don't think they should. I think they should do something about. They should just quietly in the background get rid of him and not have him show up. Maybe he dies or whatever. I don't know.
Truly one of the underrated character actors.
Very
much. He loses himself in his roles without losing himself and going method. But
without pulling a Jim Carrey or a Johnny Depp or anything like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
I had the exact same thoughts, like without going full Jim Carrey. Call him Andy.
I will actually save one for my favorite, probably for the last. Ted Lasso. The last season of Ted Lasso, which it was legit the last season.
Was that this year?
That was this year.
Oh my god, dude!
Dude, that's the thing. I went back and looked up the dates for a lot of these things for their releases, and I was really surprised at how much stuff came out this year, and a huge amount of it that I haven't even seen. And even this stuff that I did see, I filled up enough I've got 2 pages here of shit that I enjoyed, and I just had to, out of this, like, pick star the ones that I was like, okay, that touched me. That was good. And not in a Surviving Neverland kind of way, but like, a different, like, deep down in your soul sort of situation.
It's
which I guess was kind of Surviving Neverland too, just for the wrong reasons.
Ted Lasso, and I'll go ahead and say it now, made my list.
Oh, good.
As well, because even at that show's most lowest point, or just like you feel horrible for it or whatever, it always ends up, no matter how you look at it, and it's the positivity that makes it.
There's good. A light somewhere.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I kind of wasn't a fan of was the love triangle that they had set up. I love how it played. I love how it was acted. It was fantastic, but I don't know if I was a fan of it. But it's definitely not going to be enough to sit there and take it off my top 7 or whatever, however you want to say it. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
That's fair. So another one, Silo. I'm hitting a lot of Apple TV stuff because we got Apple TV, so there's new shit on there, and it was actually really, really good. But Silo is really nice. It's another book adaptation situation, and Rebecca Ferguson is kind of the lead on that. What was she? She's been in a bunch of other stuff. She's been in the Mission Impossible, hasn't she? Wasn't it like Dead Reckoning or something? Wasn't she in that?
She's gonna be in the next one, right? I don't know if she's I haven't seen the last one. I'll be honest.
Part 1 or part 2? No, neither have I. haven't seen.
Oh yeah. You're right. I forgot that one even came out. To be honest,
and I never saw it, but yeah, it came out this year, so I didn't mention that one because I didn't watch it. But so Rebecca Ferguson, she's been in a few other things. She was in I think it was called The White Queen, which was about whichever one of the monarchs that birthed a couple of the Henrys or whatever it was.
Dune. Dune. She was in the latest Dune.
She was the mother in Dune.
Oh, gotcha.
Rebecca Ferguson.
Now I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Low key crush on her, by the way. Just she's
for sure.
So, The Bear on Hulu.
Yeah, you've been talking about that all year,
dude. The characters, the actors, the filming, the storytelling, the intensity, the subtleness, and the over the top, like it's everything. And if you've ever worked in a kitchen before, there are a couple episodes that will legit give you a flashback, either in a good way or a bad way. Bit of both, really. So, but that The Bear is a phenomenal series, and the guy who acts in it, Jeremy, I can't remember his name actually off the top of my head, but the lead actor, slightly bug eyes, he was in. I didn't realize it because I'd never seen it before, but he was in Shameless.
Oh,
he was one of the kids, I think, in that TV. I've never seen Shameless either, but whatever his name is, phenomenal actor. And
isn't he also in the Iron Claw? Isn't he one of
he's one of the brothers in Iron Claw.
Yeah. He's
and then
Carrie, I think. Yeah, definitely that's it.
And like his main co-star, I forget her name, something Adanyik. I can't pronounce her name really off the top of my head, but she played the voice of April in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from this year, and she's been in some other stuff. So yeah, that's, and then Shrinking, again on Apple TV. Shrinking was
I can't believe that was early this year, man. That was fantastic.
That was early this year, and that I'm looking forward to that next season.
Harrison Ford in a comedic role is just so genius.
Yeah, so it's not like he's never played comedy before. It's just he's never played a TV show before, a sitcom, and that's this is like a drama-com or whatever you want to call it, since we have to put fucking labels and everything. Yeah, dramedy. There you go.
I think that's what
but yeah, I think out of all of that, my very top of everything was I said it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. That's the one that I would say was top of my list. That blew me away.
That's on my list along with that soundtrack by of course.
Yeah, the soundtrack is part of the reason.
Gosh. Yeah. Reznor and Atticus Ross again. I mean, just bringing it home. And
yeah, that was good. I liked that.
There are moments in that soundtrack where it's reminiscent of Seven. And I find it funny because it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
And it's a funny one. Like, it's not even trying. Like, it's not an overly dark version, right?
Yeah,
you're right. That was a good one. I forgot about that one, and I really liked it. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Didn't even realize that Shredder wasn't a part of it until the very end. Like, I didn't miss him. Yeah. Didn't even think about him.
The thing that hit me so hard on it was just like the instant recall of oh my god, I remember that character. Oh my god, I remember that character. Like, just the immediacy of, oh my gosh, all these mutants that were, these villainous things that were played across all the different, episodes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the early 90s or whatever. And out of the, it just the movies that never really got used in the movies when they were live action and stuff. And not just outside of, everything is always just Bebop and Rocksteady. Okay, great. But Baxter Stockman, and the Fly and all these, like, all of these things that I was like, holy crap. And the skateboarding Gecko, like, come on, man. Like, who's
Mondo Gecko? Yeah.
The bowling alley scene, man.
Yes.
Just classic.
The fact that they did that. I mean, you could tell Seth Rogen loved the cartoon. And he loved the toys. He probably played with them, and he was in love with it. And the fact that he wrote this for, the fans, but himself as well. It's the type of shit that we want to see from these remakes or whatever you want to call them.
He's killing it with his passion for his projects when it comes to. Yeah. You go back to Preacher as being his first real thing, comic book related, and then he goes to The Boys, and then he goes to Gen V, and then he's goes to something like the Turtles. You can tell where his heart's at, and that he doesn't want it. Like, I now, if he says I'm going to do this, I'm going to trust him. Look at Invincible, which started its second season.
Haven't even seen the second season yet, but that first season was just was great.
And the second season's continuing the same path. Like,
that's
is.
Awesome.
So
that's awesome.
It's good to see that in there. But yeah, man. What else you got? Is that all of them, or?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. That's 7. Go. I think, I'd say honorable mentions, if I'm saying anything. The Continental. If you guys didn't watch that, the Continental, which is the spinoff from. Actually, it's not even Apple. It's Peacock. I think it's Peacock.
Oh, is it Peacock? Yeah. I just got it. So then I'll watch it this year. Then
it's only it's like 3 or 4 episodes, and they're each like an hour and a half long. So each one feels like a movie almost. So they are good long episodes, but very well done. I loved. I didn't really realize what it was until it was over, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, I get it now. But I enjoyed every minute of it leading up to that, because it does have a good mystery wrapped in it. So,
do I need to watch I still haven't seen the latest John Wick.
No, you don't have to watch anything.
Okay.
You don't have to watch anything.
Prequel, man. Prequel.
This is a prequel,
sometimes prequels.
Oh, but to get you don't have to do any of that. Okay. So, but yeah, I would say Continental on, I think it's on Apple. Is it on Apple or is it on Hulu? There's one called Lessons in Chemistry. Brie Larson headlines that one. It's set in the 50s and 60s. Really good period piece. Like that one. I'd check it out. And then Guardians. Volume 3 to wrap up Guardians.
So that makes my top 7. Actually, I'm going to say this. It makes my top. It's in the top 5 kind of thing, because there's 2 of them I'm pulling out as literally it's the number 1 thing, and this is the number 2 thing that I got to see. That it's literally 1 and 2, but Guardians is like 3 or 4. It's in there. Yeah. But yeah, Guardians 3 having. How they wrapped it up and it feeling like a complete story, I don't need to see a Guardians 4. I don't need to see. I'm like, I know they're saying, Star-Lord will continue. I don't care about any of that. That story wrapped up nicely with everyone.
They could put Star-Lord in anything. So I mean, with him, Star-Lord will continue. They could do a spin-off of Star-Lord, and fine, do that. But yeah, you don't have to have another Guardians.
Or just have him show up as make those guest cameos, like they should have, done with a lot of these characters. Okay, Ray, I know there's one thing that happened this year that's definitely on both of our lists.
Can I guess it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's my number 2, Godzilla -1.
Well, that's kind of on my list. I mean, it is,
Mhm.
but it's kind of on my list. But that's not the one I'm thinking of.
Are you gonna?
So the answer is no.
Are you talking about my number 1 event of the year?
It may be your number one if you want to save that one.
My number 1 of the year, without going backwards, but I'm just gonna start right now. My number 1 thing of the year was this right here: the Texas Rangers winning the World Series. I'm not sorry. That for me, as I've been a fan since they've sucked since the very beginning.
Yeah.
I actually got to be in their original stadium when I was like 5 or 6.
Same.
Same.
So it's to see them win the World Series this year was absolutely my number 1 highlight of an entertainment event.
Well, the way you say it, though, you say win the World Series this year. To have ever won, this is their first
their
ever
first
win.
their first
Which
World
is,
Series
it's
win.
so much.
Yeah,
it's so much bigger. That, I mean, yeah, it was huge.
That was my wish, was that, and I'll tell you, I'm not to get sappy or sentimental or anything, but I always wanted to make sure that before my father leaves this earth, that these Rangers turn around and win the series before that happens, and to see that play out, and just to watched every game of the playoffs, and to see them dominate the first series, dominate the second series. Knew we weren't going to sweep Houston, but to see them dominate Game 7 to where the crowds just thinned out because they're putting up 10 runs on them.
It was in Houston too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Insult to injury was
yeah.
The
So everything there that had to do with that, I was a huge fan of, and seeing that play out the way it did. But to know that going into Game 5 of the World Series and just thinking this is it, but you don't say anything, right? So like baseball, it has a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, Jason? A lot
superstition.
of superstition. Thank you.
Hey, that's why I didn't watch. Honestly, Ray and I had that conversation.
I told him, I was like, dude, don't watch this, please. I was like, I don't need your sports luck raining down upon the Rangers this year. But seriously, watching it and not saying anything, just saying, hey, it's been a good win. It's been a good win, and getting to Game 5 and just going back and forth into the 7th, tied 0-0. And do not get me wrong, the pitchers used, especially from Arizona, the pitchers were awesome in the game. It was a sight to behold. But and I could be wrong. I could be wrong on the Game 7 for the Astros on the score. I can't remember right now, but definitely to see the pitchers just go all out in Game 5 and seeing that 0-0 until it was broken, and then just knowing that once that hit happened, it literally felt like that was going to be it. So seeing Spores get that last pitch in and just seeing it erupt, and it almost didn't feel real. And I love the play-by-play call for the normal Texas Ranger broadcaster, not this crap that was on Fox, because let me tell you, that broadcaster sucked and had it in for the Rangers the entire any series that he was doing. It was like, well, they can come back against the Rangers. They're known for that. Even when we were up like 10 runs at certain points, and the broadcaster going, well, they've been known to blow a lead. Like, dude, take yourself, Ranger hating self, and just be biased. I'm okay with that, but you absolutely had it in for the Rangers not winning this.
It's shut the hell up and just call it. It.
But to hear
call the game,
hear the call from Rick Nadell was fantastic, talking about how Ranger fans are not dreaming. This moment has happened. And it was fantastic, man. Still gives me chills. We're 3-4 months removed, still gives me chills. I loved it. So that is my number 1 event for 2023.
Yeah, that was on my list.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That was a really I'm not a baseball fan, but I have I'm always going to root for the Rangers when they're in it, and when they were back in it, 4 years ago?
Oh, we're talking 12 years ago. No, 12. It was it 2010? No. 2010, 2011. Maybe 2012, maybe 2011 or 2012, but Those were the last 2 times they were in it.
Yeah, man, it might have been 2012. You're right. It
the-
was a while back, huh?
Because I remember we were watching the game in at the Chili's in Cedar Hill.
Yeah, I was at
one of them.
Well, yeah.
Oh crap! Yeah.
The one of them, literally, I was just happy to be there.
Yeah.
Like when we made the World Series, I was like, I was just happy to be there. But the one where Cruz misses by basically 7-8 inches to end and win the World Series and to come back and lose that World Series, I was heartbreaking. But to see this one and just to not really have that that fear of it not happening, yeah, it was. This World Series was definitely different from the beginning.
Oh,
so again,
awesome.
you won in 5. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I knew that one was going to go a while, so I figured I didn't want to rush it.
Houston, we called it. Like when I was talking to my nephew, we called it Houston, and Houston would be in 7. Like there was no way it was not gonna go the full. But anyway, I could talk the rest of the show about how that feeling and everything else. But the good thing is they won. I got some nice souvenirs from a family member. My sister happened to go to game 1 of the World Series, which also talk about a great series going into the 9th, losing and last batter, and he ties it up, and then we win in 12 innings. Like, I mean, all that stuff is just it's very storybook the whole season for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
So, I guess I'll continue to go, Jason.
Yeah, we'll go with you.
Yeah, do it.
So coming into Godzilla -1, again up there with Shin Godzilla. I really enjoyed it, but more importantly, it had a story, it had heart. Told it. I'm trying not to give too much away because I don't think you've seen it, Sean.
No, and it is one that I do want to watch. Which the previews, I love the way it's shot. Looking at the previews for it, the previews that I see, the camera angles, the way they're watching the people versus just it being a monster movie, I was like, that looks very intriguing and interesting. So one of the random date nights we have, I plan to pay. I'll even pay for that if I have to watch it. So
he is a force of nature in this. Like we all talk about it being a force of nature or whatever, but it is it's a monster. Like it's I don't care about you. I'm not doing it because it's an accident. I'm doing it because I'm a psycho. But really, it's the human story element in here, from a place where we've never seen a Godzilla story come from. You tear up in a couple of scenes, and I've never ever said that about
yes, not about a Godzilla movie. As much as I love Godzilla movies, tearing up is not one of those things.
But this one really hits an emotional spot for sure.
I think one of the things about it that I like was that I think really resonated even more is because of Shin Godzilla. In many ways, it's the mirror opposite of Shin Godzilla. In a way, it's like the things that are great about Shin Godzilla are
absent.
Absent. Well, it's reversed in this one. Like again, I can't get more specific than that without ruining it. But it's very very character driven, and probably as close as we're ever gonna get from a Japanese film of them addressing sort of what they were doing in World War II. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they're never going to talk about, but like that's the perspective they're coming from, where it's like, we got some things we kind of need to talk about instead of it always being we were just hanging out. It's like, yeah.
I think my only thing is, and Sean, sorry, this isn't a spoiler. It's really not. But they talk about doing a sequel to these types of movies, and this is definitely a movie. I hope they don't do a sequel to it. I don't want a sequel to this.
I like what they're doing, where it's like every movie is its own. Let it be its own thing.
Yeah.
That's something they've already established. If you want to say it's technically a sequel in the fact that it's happening later on and they reference this one, that's fine. But it's like, don't do a sequel. I don't want to see these characters again because you've told this story. It's beautiful. It's wrapped up. Please just go and do something else.
Yeah.
What I really liked was that the -1 in this is not about Godzilla.
Yeah.
It's about Japan. That's what they flat out said it is the whole point of the movie is about Japan. In Godzilla's an expression of post-war grief and all of that and trauma and
I think you got to stop there without giving it too much, man.
Yeah, anything more you give it away. But yeah, it was brilliant.
So we we talked about Guardians 3, we talked about Turtles in that soundtrack, we talked about Lasso. So my last two, in no particular order. One is a tie. I'm throwing it in there's probably more of an honorable mention. But Spider-Man Across the Universe, once again, beautifully told.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
It's on my list
definitely was something, the animation, but the writing behind it is just so strong. 20 minutes into the movie before you even realize that there's a Miles Morales that this was built around, but for a really good reason. But I'm tagging that with Spider-Man 2, the video game from Sony.
Okay.
Very well written. Yeah, it's predictable, but everything was really done well in this. And I'll tell you right now, being able to play as a true version of Venom as a character to play with, not some of this stuff we've seen in the past, that was really cool. I was very excited to do that. Still playing it now, but it's not a long game, short game by game standards. I think it's like 40 hours maybe to beat the main story, but everything else, it just feels fun. Last is a late entry, and only because I think I haven't seen the Iron Claw, and I've not been able to. I don't think Aquaman was ever gonna make this list. I don't think Wonka was ever gonna make this list. But Iron Claw, from everyone that I know personally who's seen it, people I haven't, grown men coming out of that thing crying, I definitely think it would have made my list. But instead, I'm gonna go with Reacher. Reacher season 2.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
Not over yet, but
not over yet.
God, man, I
love
Reacher.
We binged all the available episodes on New Year's Day, and of course just caught up with this last one last night because I guess it's every Friday they do a release. So that was nice. But I agree. I agree with you on that. Reacher is a late entry because it did start right in December, but it's carrying through. It's good. It's not as good as the first one, but it's not bad though. That's the other thing. It's just it is different because the first one had a lot of interesting character development. This one you lose a little bit of that, but that's based on the story. So it makes sense why you don't have that. Like when they can explain away the reason and it's plausible that you don't have to develop all these characters' stories, then you're like, okay, fine. I'm not bothered. But there was a very interesting connection you formed as a result of that character development in the first one versus some of the connections you get in this one. But that's a personal thing watching the show. That doesn't detract from how good the show is. It's still really amazing.
Can I just say, not Jason, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert. Sean said that he did watch this last episode.
I did watch the last episode.
But thank you for showing a gunfight scene where when the vehicle is in motion, that your heroes are not going to hit a single shot.
Right.
I love that. Right. They had high position and missed every single shot they fired. And I think that's the first time I've seen that kind of realism play out where like, yeah, duh. That's exactly how it happened. You're not going to be like, oh, look, they picked off each one of the people. No, you're missing every single one of those.
Well, and especially with small arms fire. I mean, none of them, they're not using rifles. And even the guys who had rifles when the car was moving, they couldn't hit shit. And that's the point is you're spraying and praying, and that's all you do. You just point in the general direction. Maybe you'll get a toe. Maybe you won't. You know.
Yeah. It was. I love that scene. I'm
trying to remember.
Like,
I think
finally.
I think the numbers from World War. I can't remember if it was World War II or Vietnam. But they flat out point, which is why they went to. I think it was World War II, which is why they went to the 9mm. They said it's something like 70 to 85% of all guns fired, or of all shots fired, miss a target. They're like that's why they said okay. That's why they developed they went to the 9mm and they went to the 223 round, was because they're like, heavy, powerful rounds don't mean anything. What you need to be able to do is put as much lead down range as possible, as quickly as possible. That's what they did. Oh yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That's really fun.
Yeah, they really did play that out. honorable mention, the final season of Jack Ryan, season 4.
I still haven't seen that show either, man. I gotta.
I'll give you that. That was and I'm
wasn't
glad
as strong as the other 3, but I'm glad. Go ahead.
I'm glad they wrapped it up.
Yeah,
I'm glad they wrapped it up, and I think it's Krasinski, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he did. I think he did a great job as Jack. I think his turn in that role was unexpected, and I was a little doubtful. But as soon as he got in there, I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, man, you've got this. Like I didn't think you had the acting chops for this. It was one of those things where I wouldn't have seen it as believable. Similar, apparently, I hold an opposing opinion to most of America, but similar to Adrian Brody in Predators. You know, when he was the
underrated,
the SEAL or whatever he was some army ranger or something.
Mercenary,
Who knows what he was, but mercenary. And he gets and he buffed himself up, like he got big for this, and everybody else was like, we don't believe you, not with that nose.
I loved him in that role. I did. I thought he was great.
And I felt the same way about Krasinski in this one too. Yeah. He definitely he surprised me in a good way with that role.
I'm glad it was their last season, and I'm also glad it was only 6 episodes. I thought that was that story lent itself to only being that long, so I'm glad it. I'm glad they didn't try to.
Jessica Jones problem for you didn't do that.
Oh,
please, let's not rehash that. Season was
great for episodes 1, 2, and 10. Or 13, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Jason?
So yeah, we've hit the Rangers. Across the Spider-Verse, again, brilliantly written, and again, the art was amazing. That was my big thing. G1, I did, or G-1, that is on my list, but it's part of the larger idea because it's you don't want to call Toho is not an independent film company, right? I just saw Sean. We'll let him sleep.
I think that's the camera, man.
Yeah, no, he's easy.
Is it Sean? Can you hear us?
Yeah, he's frozen.
Sean, you frozen, buddy? You couldn't have froze at the. It's the best time.
That's what I'm saying. He's eepy.
There we go.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah, it was great though, man, because it was just you doing this.
Yeah.
And since Jason was talking, it fit. Go ahead. So it's the larger.
Yeah, it's like I said, Toho is not really an independent, but that movie was made with like $13.5 million.
I know. I think they said it was even less than that.
Yeah, but yeah, we don't really know what the actual numbers, but it is less than 14 million, and that's where it needs. I mean, for that, again, we saw the same thing with Sound of Freedom this year. Is people saying, "Hey, the way Hollywood, where you have to spend $100 million to tell a good story and make a good movie and have a profitable movie, is not how that works." There's been a lot of contenders for looking at Hollywood and saying, just make a good movie and people will show up and you can be profitable. That's, again, G1 was great for all the reasons we discussed, but I think it's also the fact that it's another, here's just make a damn good movie. That's all we're asking for. Right.
Yeah. It doesn't need to have the cheap, expensive CG.
Yeah.
So
the overly rushed CGI. Yeah.
Looking at you, Flash.
Yeah, and CGI doesn't replace story. That's the thing. Is spectacle does not overcome story. So I'll say my last one because it's more personal. People find this year people realized that Nickelback was cool, so Nickelback has returned. I'm glad for that. Everyone's already admitted that their hatred of Nickelback was nothing more than just posturing. So those of us who've always supported Nickelback, we've been justified. Star Trek.
Slow down, Wade Wilson.
Mm-hmm. No.
Okay, Star Trek.
Star Trek. I know Strange New Worlds. I've been the one championing it on the show for the last 2 years. But like everyone complained about the musical episode. I loved the musical episode. It really, like, the whole, like, honestly, Strange New Worlds is good, solid Star Trek, and they actually justified one of my theories in a time traveling episode. that Ray and I think have discussed over the years. And Picard
Which was
okay. Everyone's like, well, there's the Prime timeline, there's the Kelvin timeline, and I've been saying the entire time.
Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Go to Picard.
Yeah, on Picard. Shut up. On Picard, not only do we have several episodes and scenes that are not only just the best Star Trek that's ever been made, they're some of the best television you'll ever watch. It is very well written. It is acted beautifully. Like, again, you don't expect to go like, oh my gosh, in a Star Trek episode.
I don't know, dude. People saw, JFK get assassinated on live TV. I'm not really sure that it means.
I'm going to go with what Sean's saying. I think there's probably a higher.
I'm saying in Star Trek, no one's ever gone.
Okay. No. You said you even.
No, I said it was good television.
Best that you will ever see, which means
encapsulating the time of
you TV. Pause to say
fictional
you will
television
ever see.
Okay, it's as good as you'll ever see on fictional television.
I've watched a really great thing on Instagram from The Next Generation, and I think that was some of the best stuff I've ever seen on fictional TV. So I'm still not.
I'm not saying it's the top. I'm saying it's in that tier. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. It's in the tier of scenes. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the tier. Anyway, I'm saying it's absolutely worth watching. It was, again, Star Trek has been very, very good this year, and it was definitely one of my highlights where it's like, okay, good. I can go and watch Star Trek. Like, the first season of Picard was a beatdown. I didn't even bother with season 2. Season 3 was like, okay, let's see what this is about. And it's very, very good. And Strange New Worlds has not let down. So that was good. And the last thing for me is I lost 70 pounds this year. And so I'm going for another, honestly, probably 100. And we'll see how that works out.
Nice, dude.
It's a good long journey, man, and happy that you got to achieve that. And I was telling you about the same thing the other day. Although I find that I'm now, because of what happened, I'm probably gonna have to incorporate yoga to help strengthen the core and back issues. So that's interesting. I've tried it before. I said I would never do it again because, surprisingly, it's not because I don't like it or anything, because it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do is hot yoga.
Yoga is difficult. Oh, hot yoga is. Listen,
I lasted
hot yoga is a mess, dude. That you should never, if you've never done if you haven't made it through regular yoga, don't start hot yoga.
Got
45
minutes into an hour session, and by minute 46, I was done on the mat.
That's like skipping a light finger play and going straight to pegging. You don't do that. You don't do that.
Sean, you want to tell us something else about your 2023?
Yeah.
Nothing. No. I mean, I've heard stories, and
that's what I've been told.
Just saying, from what I understand, that's you gotta level up, man. You don't just go straight in for it. So take it easy with the hot yoga there, dude.
This was a couple years ago when I did it, and I regretted every moment of that ordeal, and I was like, oh my god, I'll never do it again. And here I am going, I'm gonna have to do this again, but it will not be.
Go to like goat yoga or something. That's all I'm saying.
Just do the regular stuff at the house, man. There's a ton of apps you can find that will give you 15-minute quick things. Yeah. The first time I ever did yoga was not hot yoga, but my wife bought a yoga video that was had 3 intensities. It was like beginner, intermediate, and expert. And I was like, okay, great. So we both were like, let's try this. We started on the beginner. The beginner thing was 45 minutes long. And I was like, we kept looking at each other like, is this shit still going on? Is this really? And then we were like, maybe it's not as long as it is. We finally got done, and we were like, holy crap, that was 45 minutes. We were sore for the next 2 weeks. We didn't do that yoga ever again. Because it's like, that's how it really is a lot more challenging than you expect. And we were 12 years younger then. So, I mean, doing it now is very difficult. So
it is very difficult, but it's something that
just start with the basics. But
I'm gonna have to ease my way into it to help.
Please,
strengthen core and strengthen back muscles to do whatever. And it was funny because I remember I'm rewatching the first season. Speaking of Jack Ryan, rewatching that first season, and they're talking about how with his back injury and everything else, but they kept telling him, you got to do yoga. You got to do yoga. And that's what I've been hearing for like the past 2 weeks. I think you probably should
yeah.
start doing yoga and blah blah. I'm like, great. But yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've just like you, I've hurt my back, and the exercises at the sports therapy, because it was like it's a family practice where they have a bunch of different doctors that do different things. I just so happened to see the one that was also like a sports therapist. The stuff she gave me to do the exercises, the stretches, it's yoga.
Yeah.
And she didn't say it was yoga, but when she handed it to me, I was like, I know this shit. I was like, this is downward facing dog.
This is downward dog. I
was like, what the hell is this? I was like, you're just telling me to do yoga. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, they use a lot of this in yoga too. And I'm like, So even sports medicine say yoga. So you're on the right track, dude.
Thing you're looking forward to in 2024?
Dune Part 2.
Sorry. Yeah, Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2, for sure. What were you saying, Jason?
Our thing, but then also my thing, which I should wrap up this week. 4 pages left.
Dune 2, Ghostbusters, and Deadpool 3.
I'm sorry.
I know those are all franchise things.
No. The way you said Dune 2, it just made me think of Dune Tune, which is the the Scottish janitor on Simpsons singing Downtown.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I got it. Nothing can stop a great Scotsman.
Really?
I am looking forward to also, and my other thing, not globally movie wise. It's the latest expansion for Destiny called The Final Shape, which will be the final 4 seasons of the end to the light and dark saga of Destiny, is what they're calling it. They've already made it. All they have to do is release it. So it gets released this year, and that will wrap up the friggin' 10-year saga.
Can I just say though, hats off to that's Bungie, right?
That's Bungie, yeah.
Bungie. Hats off to them for it's not even milking the series, because they didn't. They gave it fresh updates and stories. I mean, to still last this long and providing new content, that's impressive. Yeah, it's really impressive.
The creators, the story creator, the original guy who did it, and the directors and people who are continuing the story, they've done it in a very creative way to keep people coming back, while still creating a whole ton of filler to just spread time out a bit more. But yeah, they were talking about going on past this, which I'm already like, guys, as soon as this light and dark thing wraps up, I'm kind of out. Like, no more. I don't need any more of this shit. But
I'm getting too old for this shit.
I'm partially, but I'm also just looking forward to seeing the end of the story. It's this thing has been told and ongoing for so long. It's like, you guys really need to kind of knock this off. So but yeah, looking forward to that.
Cool.
It's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else we want to talk about on this once every biannual show that we now do?
No, I'm good.
I had 39 things on my real list.
Did you really?
That I had to choose from. Yeah, 39 things that I had to go through.
Pick 3 random things really quick.
A man called Otto.
Hold on 2 seconds. It only feels right. No one but us or some of the early listeners are going to get this. But go ahead.
Man called Otto. And these are not saying good or bad. I'm just saying things.
Yeah.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Really?
Air, Courting a Legend. Like I said, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying random things.
Okay.
Barbie. No Hard Feelings.
Okay. Yeah.
They
okay. I see that.
Tyrone.
They clone Tyrone.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Not that one.
Clone Tyrone. Strays.
Okay. Was that funny? I haven't watched it, but it's on my list.
It had its moments.
Okay.
It had its moments. The Night Agent.
I've
heard good things. I haven't seen it.
I didn't like it.
I've heard good things though.
I'm going to mention one that I was disappointed with, and I'll tell you up front I'm disappointed with it. The Creator.
Really? I was gonna watch that. Oh, so don't watch that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. I just told you I was disappointed with it. You might like it.
Well, I might, because one of my things would have been.
I love John David Washington, by the way. He's a phenomenal actor. So
I didn't put this on the list, but personally, Blue Beetle.
Oh yeah.
Loved
Blue Beetle was on the list too.
I thought about putting that on my list. Yeah.
And I did watch Rebel Moon Part 1, but I didn't.
How was that?
I'll let you.
Okay.
I won't say anything. Not until anybody. I won't say anything good or bad until anybody. Watches
I don't want to watch it. I want to. The director's cut's supposed to be coming out in a couple months.
Oh, is there a director's cut?
Yeah, there's a director's cut. Yeah,
so
Go figure it's Snyder, so it's going to be even longer next time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Although,
like, it's a completely different movie. I'm
funny.
like, why didn't we just get that movie? I was down for it, but yeah.
It's just gonna be more slow motion. That's all he cut out of it was the slow motion bits. Just
no,
like
you're
what he
thinking of
added.
Justice League.
Well, but
that's what he does.
That is what he does. But I like Justice League. I like the Zack Snyder version of that as well.
Agreed.
But yeah. Jason?
I don't know. This shit's over. We'll see y'all later.
That's it?
That's it.
Have a happy 2024. Love one another. Be nice to one another. Nothing.
Be excellent to one another in 2024.
Be excellent to each other. I agree with that. All right. Well, everyone. Goodbye to 23. Hello, 24. And we're out.